Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Today we have a great episode of the podcast. We're going to be talking with
Phanat.
Phanat.
Xanamane.
Nice. All right, so Phanat, we are going to talk with you about your candidacy for Louisiana State Senate District 22. So before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and just roll that intro, and we'll get started after that.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so I want to go ahead and let you guys know about our presenting sponsor real quick. It is Chase Group Construction. So if you're ever wanting to build something or renovate a business, they have all the tools to help you with that. They take the lead and become your one point of contact for the entire design build process. They have a diverse portfolio of projects that range from medical to popular restaurants like Fat Pat's and Broussard and Bro Bridge, and to multi-unit shopping center developments. Tons of stuff. Great local company. Check them out. Their website is chasegroupconstruction.com. All right. Phanat.
The H is silent.
I know the H is
okay.
getting me.
You know, I'm sort of, I like to make the joke that, Barack Obama, when he started politics, I'm sure got his name pronounced all the time. So I take it as a compliment, and I'm flattered by it.
Phanat,
yes.
All right. Well, good to have you on. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, and let's establish who you are and where you're from, or if you're originally from here. Obviously, I think you have some roots in other countries. So let's go ahead and find out a little bit more about you.
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. And so my story really began in a refugee camp in Thailand. My family were Laotian refugees. They left Laos in the late 70s, crossed over the Mekong River into neighboring Thailand, got settled in a refugee camp there.
Oh, wow.
My older brother and my older sister were born, and I was born in 1981 in the refugee camp called Phanat Nikom. So that's where I got my first name from. And soon after I was born, a couple months after actually, we immigrated to the U.S. and we arrived here and were sponsored by Catholic Services. And a lot of the Catholic dioceses at that time were bringing in refugees from Southeast Asia following a lot of the political turmoil that happened in there with the American conflict in Vietnam and whatnot. So there was a regime change in Laos. The Communist Party took over, and they were sending people into labor camps and what they call re-education camps. So just to sort of re-educate them in the new ideology, basically, of the new party. And so my father and my mother decided to leave the country because of that reason. And they decided to come to America because they heard it was a place of opportunity. And my mother was always a person that was always looking out for opportunities for herself and for her family. So that's how I wound up in South Louisiana. And we settled here in New Iberia, actually. And my family and so many other Asian immigrant families at that time came here and, started in low wage jobs, working in the agriculture or seafood industry, peeling shrimp, peeling crawfish, shucking oysters, picking peppers, picking fruit, sorting potatoes at the factories. And I think minimum wage at that time was maybe like $2 or something in 81. Yeah. So it's incredible to think about. But yeah, and when we first arrived, we shared a 3-bedroom trailer with 3 other families, and each family had their own room, and we shared all the common spaces, of course. And
a 3-bedroom trailer.
A 3-bedroom trailer.
Like a single wide.
A single wide, 1980s.
Yeah.
The trailer was probably from the 1970s at that
probably
stage.
So, yeah.
And so that's the story of my very humble beginnings and how we arrived in this country. The story following that was really is really amazing too, and is a real true story of how our American dream really took root here in the state of Louisiana. And, so many, like I said, so many families came here with nothing and worked these jobs and really pulled their resources together and reinvested it into our small community and built ourselves up gradually and lifted ourselves out of poverty. And just looking back at that, I just find that so inspiring, to see that. I was part of it, but, in retrospect, just seeing how this country, Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, offered our family these opportunities. And so whenever we arrived, everyone, got on government assistance because we were working very low minimum jobs, and everyone in the family that could work and move or were old enough went to these factories to do these sort of sweatshop jobs.
And these are factories in Iberia Parish?
In Iberia Parish, there were like these sweatshops basically where you're peeling crawfish, and you're peeling shrimp and shucking oysters. I remember the smell very well
really?
whenever
But you had to have been like, what, 4 or 5 years old?
Well, I remember people coming back from those, my family members,
my older family. I know you obviously wasn't working there, but like,
yes, but
to remember smells like that, that's distinctive.
It was so a strong memory from my childhood. Just going into the car, our station wagon, and all the smells from those factories. It was just so pungent and so strong.
Yeah.
And
well, seafood especially can be that way.
Yes. And so you just imagine, coming home after a long day of shucking oysters and having all that gunk on you,
right?
And coming into the car, and that just all permeates throughout the space. But my mother, she was a very entrepreneurial woman, and she didn't want to work for somebody for very long. She got the idea of opening up a Asian grocery business to serve our little community that was growing and attracting more people at that time. And it was like 30 or 40 families at that time. But she's like, we should, I want to open up a business. And she bought a little part of a gas station and opened up her first Asian grocery store, Laotian Asian grocery store in New Iberia. It's called the Asia Market.
Is it still there?
It is. We sold it in 2005, and it's still there, and it's still the Asian grocery business, but it's different owners.
Yeah.
And the community, the Asian immigrant community, really invested all of their government subsidies, the food stamps and whatnot, into this business, right? So we didn't just go spend it at a corporate chain like a Walmart or something like that. I don't think Walmart even sold food at that time, or Asian food at that time. So, but it was this economic and commercial hub, became this economic and commercial hub for our community. And my mother was able to reinvest that back into people in various ways through loans, small loans, and through store credit and just IOUs, when people come and they're like, we're struggling with this, we had an unexpected expense or something. It was a help to be able to just get the IOU, store credit, or a loan if they needed to buy a vehicle to get to work, or a loan to send their kid to, courses in college that semester. And so I grew up in this sort of environment of this very close-knit community that supported each other beyond just, social interactions, but real, like, building investments and building wealth within our community. And, there were multiple income earners within these households, so we were able to elevate and reinvest very quickly into our into more homes, build our own neighborhoods, like the Laotian neighborhood village, really, in Broussard, on the edge of Iberia Parish, called Lansang Village. And my family and my grandfather were involved in making that happen and just building this new community for the Laotian people there, where we could celebrate our own culture. We had our Buddhist temple in the middle of it, and now it hosts one of the biggest festivals in the area, the Laotian New Year's Festival, that draws in people from all over the country and the world, really, to come to our little part of the state and celebrate this culture and the families and everything that we built there. So it's been an amazing journey just to see how the Laotian community and the Asian immigrant community in this area really supported each other and built their businesses, built their neighborhoods, lifted themselves out of poverty. And I feel that's a great model for how we can proceed today, how we can start to readjust our government programs so that they're smaller scale. They're really looking at these neighborhood, very pinpointed sort of engagement, interactions, and policies that really will make a difference in these people's lives, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, but also bringing in multiple scales, thinking of the large industries too, and how we can also diversify that to make sure that we keep people here. Yeah. So, that's sort of my origin story for how I came to be in Louisiana and do what awesome. I do here.
It's interesting to hear people's stories, whether they're have been local for all their lives or they're from another state, another country, and just to kind of understand how they got to Louisiana, specifically this area of Louisiana. It's always fascinating to hear. And some people really don't have that great of a origin story. They're just like, yeah, I mean, I've lived in Broussard all my life, pretty much the same street. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But like when people, for example, you know who Rob Perillo is, right?
Yes.
Okay. He came from the Bronx in New York.
Okay, I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, and like if you listen to him talk, you can tell his voice doesn't quite have like the Cajun flair that you would think it should have, because he's from the Northeast, and he made his way through different jobs and ultimately landed in Houston, because Houston was blowing up in the late 80s, early 90s, or probably not late 80s, but early 90s. It was coming up good, and he got a job with some kind of meteorology for airports and stuff, and it ultimately got a job offer in Louisiana. And it was interesting to follow the path, because I didn't know that about Rob Perillo, so to find that out is really cool. Have you ever like traveled back to Laos? Like, how is it now? What's the situation in Laos today versus in the early 80s whenever your parents immigrated out?
Well, it's a lot more open than it was in the 80s and the 90s. Laos has really, and I'm very fortunate to have visited it in the early 90s, where it was still very underdeveloped and unspoiled in many ways. And then, the New York Times or whatever got a hold of, spend a week in Laos, and this is the destination of the year. And then all of the tourism flooded in, and then with that comes the development and these sort of very natural beauty of the country became roads and parking lots and developments and stuff. So it started to look a lot more like America in a way. So it's going through that transition now, and there's still some the people there were very similar to the Laotian people here. They carried on a lot of the culture over here. And for me, growing up, I was surrounded by Laotian culture all the time. I sort of had to live two lives. And when I go to school, I was this American, and then I go home and I'd speak a totally different language and ate totally different food and had totally different smells, environments, and all this. And I just grew up being able to be a mediator between those two worlds, and it allowed me to be very adaptable and very flexible in many situations. But growing up, I didn't get all of the sort of cultural references, and I didn't realize how
cultural references in this area.
In this area, in terms of the how the Laotian population here engaged and communicated with each other. There's a lot of nuances and jokes and references that are really tied to the motherland and their experiences there that were completely foreign to me, because I hadn't been to Laos really ever, right? Because I was even born in a refugee camp outside of Laos in Thailand. So I had the opportunity to go and live in Thailand and teach there at the university in Bangkok, and go over to Laos a few times and really immerse myself in the culture and understand the landscape that birthed this culture, and understand the language and everything a little bit better. All the different nuances became a lot more clear to me. And I would think to myself, oh, that's what that joke meant, because there's this village here that they're talking about that has all the funny people in it or something. Yeah. So things like that, you just don't really get it until you go there yourself and learn about your homeland and where your ancestors are from, and all of these the rich traditions that were carried with them to the U.S. and to this state, and were then readapted to fit into our new American context. Got it. So from an anthropological standpoint, it's very I've written papers about this. I've done a cultural documentation for the Library of Congress about our community here in Louisiana and the celebrations that we have, and just how we've been able to sustain and adapt our culture in this new area. So
awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, look, I got to get my other two sponsors in real quick, and then we will get into kind of your positions and kind of what your priorities are. I've already looked at a few of them and kind of talk about that. So real quick, our main sponsors here, actually our main sponsor is Chase Group Construction, but our other main sponsors are the Music Academy of Acadiana. If you're looking to learn music, or if you have a child or a grandchild that would like to learn music, Music Academy of Acadiana is a great local place to do that. They teach students of all ages and styles, any instrument you can think of, really, and also your voice is an instrument. They help you fine-tune that. And you can also learn audio production. They've sent students to college and major music competitions like American Idol and The Voice, tons of stuff. Founded by UL Lafayette Music School graduate Tim Benson. He's also in an emo cover band called The Criers. I like plugging that because it's really cool. Ultimately, their goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, and to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. Their website is musicacademyacadiana.com. Just Google them and you'll find them out. They're all on social media as well, too, Facebook, Instagram, all those places. So check them out. All right. And then we have Electronic Protection Systems, or EPS. They sell security systems and whole home water conditioning units. They've been in the community for over 20 years. They recently expanded to Houston, Texas. You can get into a home security system with zero down, no out-of-pocket expenses, 24/7 professional monitoring that's cheaper than all the other national guys. Again, they're local. They have a great professional installation team. Also, their whole home water systems. I've been using all their equipment before they sponsored, before I even knew that they would be interested in sponsoring. So it's really cool. I use their stuff. Their water systems are really nice because if you have like high chlorine in your water, or if your water is hard and just feels weird or tastes funny, this system kind of clears all that up and takes all those hard minerals out. And yeah, it makes your water taste better, smell better, all that good stuff. And when you get a shower, my favorite thing is it feels like butter. It's like butter water. I know it's a weird word to mix with each other, but it's so smooth. Like it feels like the water is still kind of like almost like a lotion on your body. It's really cool. Check them out, eps-online.com, or you can also check out our referral link that will help you get in contact with them as well. It's link.developinglafayette.com/EPS. And if you use that link, we'll make some money off of it. So use the link if you want to. We'd be happy if you did, but check them out. All righty. So let's talk about what you're running on. So before anybody is confused, District 22, I had to Google it. And I had to find where District 22 is because I was like, I don't know. I'm assuming it's where a lot of his bio says he's from. And so District 22, and you can help me out too. Also, it's Saint Martin Parish. It looks like a good chunk of it, maybe almost all of it. A portion of Iberia Parish, and then also you said a sliver of Lafayette Parish. Is that correct, or is there a little bit more nuances to that?
Yes, there's a lot more nuances to it. So if you actually look at the map, it's very, it's so
wild,
oddly shaped. And there's these weird sort of fingers that point out of it. It almost looks like an octopus in a way.
Yeah.
And but yes, in general, yes, there's Saint Martin Parish, and it goes through Breaux Bridge, like half of Breaux Bridge, and Cecilia, Henderson, and Saint Martinville. Then there's Iberia Parish, where primarily New Iberia, the Coteau area, and Broussard, and it doesn't have Jeanneret in it though. Then there's parts of Lafayette Parish like Broussard and along Collie Saloon and Verrat School Road. So if you basically follow Verrat School Road from Highway 90 all the way down to like La Nouvelle Road, half an hour on either side of that would be in District 22.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It's the map is wild looking.
Yes, and it just changed in the last year.
Okay.
Yes.
And you guys, you can look up these district maps too. They're on the state legislative website. It's legis.la.gov. Just Google State Senate District 22 maps, and you'll see all the districts there.
Now, be careful because there are some old maps still hanging out on those websites, and I've emailed them, tried to.
I'm assuming this is the most recent. It may not be.
Make sure that it says 22 or 23 above it on the map, because there's still some 2011 maps floating around out there.
Okay, so the map I'm looking at, District 23 is to the left in Lafayette Parish.
Yes, to the west. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is that correct?
Yes. It is.
It should be right.
Yeah. Cool. Just to make sure that that finger is still poking through it.
Yeah. I see it. Yes. All right. I would show it on the thing, but I don't want to get caught up looking at a map. All right. So real quick, you have several other people running alongside of you.
That's right.
One in particular that I recognize, and I believe he's a incumbent, is Blake Miguez, right?
He is a state representative. Currently.
So he's going for
the incumbent Senator Mills has termed out.
That's right.
Yeah,
he's terming out. Okay, sorry. I know Blake was somewhere in government. That's how much research I've done so far on all this stuff. I still have a lot to read up on.
You're basically the average citizen. So the average citizen in the United States needs a lot of education on their local governments.
I'm going to be crunch timing it the next couple of weeks, because October 14th is the official election day, and I think September 30th, which is that this Friday?
Early voting. That's Saturday.
Oh, yes. Saturday. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So that's coming up quick. All right. So one of the main things, I went to your website, and for those that are wondering, your website is electpx.com. So if you want to look up his stuff as well, and you can click on priorities. Obviously, you can click on any other tabs you want, but priorities. The first one, and I find it interesting, is jobs. I don't know how many other people prioritize jobs as being the
Everybody.
number one. Okay,
basically.
Well, yours is obviously jobs.
And the economy, yes.
Yeah, obviously it kind of deals with the economy. But so I know you mentioned, with your family working in the Iberia Parish area a while back with different jobs and the seafood industries and whatnot. So I want to know, what is your take on the current job market, the economic status of this area specifically for your district? What do you see is an area of improvement that you could make that Fred Mills maybe not have done? Because Fred, a lot of people like Fred Mills.
Yeah, he was a popular guy.
Yeah, he was a well-known guy with
the
FM Bank.
Pills commercials.
I know,
that he
right?
did in drag. That was fun, so fun. I supported. Even though he was a different party than me, I supported him. He was a really good, reasonable man, and elected leader. So sorry that he's moving on, but I think it's great that we also have an opportunity to bring in fresh fresh blood, new ideas, fresh ideas, and new people, younger people, to be able to start shaping our state. So in terms of jobs and the economy, I think my view and my concern has been that I grew up and I still live to this day in an area that's a very high poverty. Iberia Parish has 20% poverty, almost. Yeah, I think it's like 19.5 or something like that. And Saint Martin Parish has the same. And these smaller cities and towns in these rural areas, have since big companies like the textile mills that my community really benefit from left in the 90s. It's sort of been a struggle to get that community back on its feet and developing and keeping up with the rest of the world. So that's a big concern that I want to address. Like, how do we attract new industries into our area? So we have the oil and gas industry, which is the major industry for an employer in our area, and that's been great, especially for the Lao immigrant community. There were in the 80s, there were federally funded programs that trained the Laotian community as welders to help be part of that industry. And I think we could do that again for people in our low-income areas, give them training in new industries that are coming up. So one bit of exciting news for Iberia Parish is that we're getting a solar panel manufacturing facility.
Is it called First Solar?
First Solar, yes, yeah. First Solar. And the airport is just, it's adjacent to the West End community where I live, in the low-income community where I live. And I moved back after I went to school here at UL Lafayette and finished in architecture, graduated in architecture. Then right after that, I went to New York City to get my master's at Columbia University in urban design. And I worked in New York for about five years. And then I had a stint in Thailand for about 2 years before I felt the pull to move back and just help out. I don't know what I was thinking, really. And all my friends in New York and Bangkok is like, why are you moving back there? And I was like, there's no opportunity. I mean, you could say there's
not a whole lot of opportunity. I mean, there's some, but there's not a whole lot.
With my education and background, usually you will stay in a big city and embrace that life. But for some reason, I was just like, I feel like, I've been working in a lot of different communities, working on projects around the world, really, and seeing how other places and municipalities were making things happen in their communities. And I was like, why can't this happen in my hometown? And I was like, and something inside me just said, okay, just go back and try out these ideas in your hometown and see what happens. And I committed 10 years to doing that. I was just like, I'm going to go back to New Iberia, and for 10 years, I'm just going to do this work and bring these ideas. And, with no money at that time, my family had already all moved away from New Iberia. All we had was our leftover house that we were renting out. So I'll move back in the old hood and just see what I can do.
Yeah.
And in the past 10 years, I helped to accomplish a lot within the community, like get a community garden started and a local food ecosystem that supports local businesses like restaurants and tourism, because we run Airbnbs out from it and other sort of tourism activities and guided tours. And we have a farm stand called the Berry Fresh Market that were sort of spin-offs from that initial work of the community garden. And there were various other projects relating to performances and Main Street revitalization and just activating our urban core and our Main Street downtown area with more activities and arts and murals and festivals, and attracting more people to the Asian community and what they had built and educating them about this sort of subculture of Laotian Buddhists that live in the area, and bringing in investment through grants to sort of promote that. And, so it was all these sort of smaller scale projects that brought in a lot of impact and made a real difference in a lot of the people's lives in that community. And the larger industries we're doing of oil and gas, it's the boom and bust cycle of oil industry. Yeah. And a lot of our people in the Lao community, Asian community that were in that during those bust cycles, had to go work out of state or find employment elsewhere and leave their homes and just be away, and it was just like, well, why don't we have other industries here to help us through these tough times of the oil boom bust cycles? And so when I heard about the first solar manufacturing plant coming in, for me, it was like, we got to hit that iron, strike the iron while it's hot. Like, this is coming in. We have to make sure that our low income communities, the Western community around me, has direct access to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And that's going to be done through vocational training, more access to transportation to get to those kinds of trainings, because SLCC and UL are providing courses that will support that industry now. So it's like this new dawning of this world. And the reason I'm running is that I didn't see much from the other candidates that were talking about these new opportunities and how this community that really needs to be lifted out of poverty can access that and be able to have those opportunities. Yeah. So I love my community so much, and I want to make sure that they have the best opportunities they could possibly have. And so that's why I'm in this race to elevate the conversation and draw more attention towards the people here that really need this opportunity. So
okay. Yeah, and I like that you mentioned obviously the first solar, because that was a big old thing. I think it was late last week that it broke ground. I love solar energy. I am fascinated by it. So anytime something comes up like that, I'm so curious and like why we haven't had more development in that technology over the past 10 years than what we should have. I feel like it should have been a thing, because we have so many fields. Mm-hmm. We have so many areas of land that could utilize just the sun in that manner. And I'm like, but we haven't. And I feel like we've been so consumed with the oil and gas industry, which rightfully so. I mean, it's a very big player. It's a big economic driver on most situations, on most days. I know sometimes it can have its downturn, but to see more alternative energy developments, it's nice to see that we're finally starting to see more of that. Oh yeah, at least it's what it appears to be.
It's so exciting, and I think a lot of young people that are more in tune with what's happening globally and the issues that we're confronting with climate change, they're leaving to go to other places to embrace these kinds of opportunities, right? So I think it's by embracing this right now, we're creating space to allow our young people like myself that left to be able to come back and thrive in a sort of jobs that are more of the way I think the 21st century will roll out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So kind of my last question on jobs, what do you see as the fastest growing economic driver in this area at the moment?
Fastest economic driver is going to be education, I think, at the moment.
Okay, education. Yeah. Why education?
Education, because, I mean, it's a huge part of our economy already. And I think there's so much talk about and debate about teacher pay, for instance. And there was some legislation passed that, gave teachers a temporary raise because we had a sort of budget surplus in the last session, but I think young people and young educators that are entering this field and going to this field, they want to see that their work being taken seriously. And I would support legislation definitely that would make teacher salary increases permanent. And I'm like, I'm not gonna play with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all, like, and y'all's money. Like, we want to keep you here. We're not just gonna be like, oh, well, give this stipend this time around, but maybe next semester it might not happen. That's not stability. That's not driving one of our biggest economic forces.
We are one of the according to numbers, statistics, we're one of the least educated states.
Yeah.
Or it's from what the numbers say anyway. I think we're 48th or 49th?
Yeah,
something
we
like
sort
that.
of flip-flop back
With
and forth
Mississippi.
between those last two.
Mississippi is kind of flip-flop
places.
with us in those positions, which is interesting.
But investing in teachers, investing in education is very important for me.
Yeah.
It was a big reason. Education in my community, in my family, my culture is very important as a way to just lift ourselves up out of any depressed economic state or social state that we're in. Educate yourselves, and then you'll be able to find a way to do that. Yeah. So.
Okay. And then one of your next priorities, and I'm just kind of going down the line, is health. So right now, one of the things you have right here, you said it's a foundation for a better Louisiana, which is Louisiana has everything to gain from health because we're also at the bottom of that situation too.
Yes. So these things that we're talking about have long been unaddressed effectively for a long time in Louisiana.
Why do you think Louisiana specifically is in its position with health right now? Like, what is there? Is there a common denominator on why we are one of the least healthiest states?
Yeah, I mean, is it our education and
I was gonna say probably education.
And our culture.
Yeah.
We've celebrated our great food for a long time, but haven't allowed it to evolve to become healthier. Still great, it's great tasting, but still healthier, and there's ways to do that.
Yeah. I think there have been efforts to try to make our food somewhat healthier. I know someone did cauliflower rice. I think that got rejected. I don't know if they've tried quinoa and boudin or anything like that, but
eggplant boudin.
Yeah, I know. But there is a company called Parish Rice who has created I don't know how they created it. I don't know if it's hand selected and just, I don't want to say GMO because I don't think it is that, but it's got more protein in the rice and it has a lower glycemic index, which prevents or helps prevent the spike in blood sugar, which is interesting. I don't know if you knew that. So that might be something to look up, but I know there are some companies making strides to try to help our obsession with the food that we have in South Louisiana a little bit more healthier. Obviously, there's still a long way to go for that because we love gravy here. Who doesn't love gravy? Every culture has gravy. I mean, Asian culture has gravy. Everybody has a gravy. It's So right here you have investing in public health by creating community health farms. What is that?
Well, a good example is the community farm that
I know you
I'm
mentioned
doing
something
right
like
now.
that,
Yeah, so I've been running the Iberia Community Garden in New Iberia for 10 years, and we initially received the startup funds for that through the Iberia Parish Foundation and the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation. And the target of that project was really to bring more access to fresh fruits and vegetables to the community in my neighborhood, the West End. And it's largely predominantly African American community, and largely 20% of poverty that exists in Iberia Parish is sort of concentrated in that neighborhood, unfortunately. And so the access was very, very limited. And so through the community, Iberia Community Garden, we were able to start new farmers markets and create programs like school visits and school gardens and gardens at public housing and then also do sort of this agro tourism Airbnb sort of ecosystem and project based off of that as well, that brought people from all around the world to come work in our neighborhood and sort of enjoy the culture there and sort of add to it while they were there and have this really authentic interaction with the community as well. So overall, it was just a very mentally, spiritually a positive environment. And then people were eating more fresh fruits and vegetables. And, every doctor will tell you that that's a really great thing to do for your body.
Yeah.
And so one of the amazing sort of spin-offs of the Iberia Community Garden was the Berry Fresh Market. And,
The berry?
The berry.
Yeah.
The berry is a nickname for New Iberia for those that are not in the know. And we opened that about 6 years ago. And I brought a young black man on board on that project to sort of manage the project, and eventually he would take full ownership of the project, which he has done in a really beautiful way, where it's now this farm stand is a space where people can come get fresh fruits and vegetables, but there's also he has his own gardens in the back of that lot. And let me tell you, just the amount, it's in a address in a part of the neighborhood where it's the hot spot where all the action happens, right? And that's the gun violence and a lot of drug activity happens in that part, in that sort of 3-block radius of Hopkins Street. And we decided to just put a farmer's market stand right there and have Carl be a sort of model for young black entrepreneurship in this community that doesn't ordinarily see that happened. There's a lot of Asian immigrant businesses that are there and that have started up and done their thing, but it's rare to see a young black man be that kind of example in that part of that community, and talk about fresh, healthy food, healthy living, and engaging with the community in all these aspects of healthy living. So that's why I believe making sure that we invest in these spaces that have gardens and have farms, if it's a business, like even the Asia market business that my family started in the 80s, we grew a lot of our own Asian produce to sell in the market and that was a consistent part of the Asian diet, and why we in the early days were still healthy, generally healthier. But since then we've sort of assimilated into local Cajun society, Creole society, and so we were having issues with heart disease and obesity and diabetes and that sort of stuff. But just re-embracing and educating people about these health benefits and getting them into these garden spaces that make such a positive impact in the community, because there's people from all generations that are engaging in that farmer and at the Berry Fresh Market in its gardens, or playing chess up front, or going to buy produce. And it makes me so proud, because it's the same model that our Asia market and our immigrant community had. And it will take some time, but with additional support from the state, I think we can accelerate that and also provide more opportunities and sort of have all these additional spin-offs from these initial farms that we create.
Yeah. So I've noticed in Lafayette, there's been a few farmers markets popped up, specifically in the Fightonville area of town, Fightonville Fresh. There's several little community farms that are kind of mixed around the north side of Lafayette, where like you said, if there's an area of Lafayette that has poverty, like you mentioned in your district, there's a certain area that's like the highest concentration of poverty. If Lafayette had that, it's more or less on the north side, especially in that throughway corridor. And so I've seen a lot of like you said, community farms and people that are doing more farming related activities to help promote their health. So it's interesting that you say that, and because I feel like that's becoming I don't want to say a trend, because trends means that it comes and goes, but it's a path that people realize that it's better for them in the long run. So I think that's nice.
People are always going to need to eat.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, and I did not ask one of my last political guests this, because this person was almost 2 hours long, and it was at the end of the 2 hour mark, and the comment section was blowing up, and her name was Priscilla Gonzalez. She was running for Lafayette Mayor President.
Oh yeah, that was a bit of
It was an interesting one.
Yeah.
But we had a good conversation. One of the questions that someone had put in the comments, and at this point, the comments were just starting to roast, and I was like, look, I got to end the burn. They asked for me to ask, where is her favorite plate lunch place? And so I'm curious to know, if it's not plate lunch or whatever have you, where is your favorite place to grab a lunch? If you're just hungry, you want something good, you're not necessarily thinking about health or unhealth, you just want something that's good, that'll feed your soul and just brighten your day, where's that go-to place?
I walk into my backyard and go through my garden and start snacking on vegetables. No, but yeah, the go-to place. I'm on Hopkins Street, and I'm just a block away from King's Seafood.
Oh yeah,
which is a quick. Whenever I wake up and my routine is just roll out of bed and go into the garden and just start doing stuff in the garden. And by the time the morning just rolls right on by, because I'm out there taking care of stuff. So like I get hungry around noon or 1, and then I just walk 2 blocks down to King's Seafood for a quick cheeseburger and fries or something. And then beyond, another 2 blocks from that is Freeman's Food and Furniture. And they have good plate lunches there, and it's a convenient spot in the neighborhood. I'm sort of an urbanist at heart, so I try to, I love that I live in a semi-walkable community, that there's sidewalks. I can get to places just easily by walking. Right. And I'm adopting my dream is to get rid of my car and just have a little electric scooter and just go to my little places. I have the Asian market still on the side of me. Actually 2 Asian grocers right at walking distance in my neighborhood. So I feel like I have like the world right there at my fingertips. And then the beautiful, my beautiful vegetable garden, the Iberia Community Garden right there on the lot as well. So those, to answer your question, that is usually my go-to spots.
Nice. I like that.
They're right there in my neighborhood and convenient.
So we are at 48 minutes. It feels like it
was very short.
It feels very short. I actually just got a notification on my iPad that I am running out of storage space. So before we are cut off by my iPad, I wanted to give you a chance to go ahead and let people know where they can find out more information about you. Absolutely. And to give your spiel real quick.
Yes. So my name is Phanat Xanamane. I'm running for state